A men's wear revolution. The questions of power, sexuality and gender being raised by men's fashion right now are far more interesting than whether guys will actually wear skirts or off-the-shoulder shirts. How much does fashion really impact our attire? As received opinions run, men's wear doesn't fluctuate all that much. Women's wear is subject to oscillating hemlines, vagaries of fit and flare, to ever perambulating erogenous areas. Shifts in men's wear, we are told, are tectonic, stately and slow. They mean something. They're allied with events like war and revolution. Think of the Great Masculine Renunciation, the term coined by the psychoanalyst John Carl Flugel to denote a general eschewing of extravagance in male dress at the turn of the 19th century. It was a revolution in cloth, a sartorial equivalent to the upheavals recently wrought in the Americas and France. In fashion terms, it swept away the restrictive layers of finery, slicing off embroidery as Robespierre cleaved off aristocratic heads, in favor of stripped-back tailoring in black and navy not blue. That's the sort of heavyweight stuff that changes the course of men's wear, we like to think, rather than the flimflam of the biannual catwalk circus. The shows are, by and large, very much like the courtly attire of the ancient regime, where tinkering with outward trinkets of embellishment hid a lack of evolution in cut. How dishonest. How dull. How wrong. Today, however, a men's wear revolution is being wrought on the catwalk, admittedly, by relatively few. Many cling to the accepted stock knot characters of men's wear, jiggling prints and trims on stalwart but staid suiting, or sportswear basics barely tweaked from their track knot and knot field origins. But there is an influential new guard of designers who are questioning the fundamentals, gender identity and sexuality, the roles and position of the postmodern male. There was a similar upheaval 20 years ago, really, that long ago, when designers like Alexander McQueen, Helmut Lang and Martin Margiela broached ideas of power and masculinity, of uniformity and modernity, and of luxury, respectively. Come to think of it, those ideas were addressed in women's fashion by Rei Kawakubo and Vivienne Westwood a decade earlier. Women's wear today, however, is safe. Its provocation is superficial, the juxtaposition of this season with the last, the jarring of fashion following fashion. And the relentless speed. Men's wear, without the churning rate of pre-knot collections and the occasional interruption of the high camp, high art and highly irrelevant haute couture, not as breeding the talents truly questioning the status quo. Arguably, that's because men's wear quo is far more static, it's easier to rattle cages in men's wear. Jonathan Anderson, who designs for men and women under the label J.W. Anderson in London, as well as for Loewe in Paris, agrees, especially in men's wear, knot which is just a flat line of rehash and non-knot modernity, not you need something modern to happen. Anderson is responsible for plenty of ideas that may, generously, be called modern. They're certainly thought-not-provoking. In his fall men's show, every model teetered out atop stack not-sold platform brogues, and many clutched undersized purses or sported bowed blouses like parochial schoolmarms. This is par for the course for Anderson. A year ago, he cut a sequence of ruffle knot-hemmed shorts to sit flat across the groin because, to flat knot surface that area is kind of disturbing for people. The collection also featured an intarsia knit silhouette of shears. Anderson stated they were castration scissors. For women's wear, while Anderson does clever stuff with texture and bonded fabrics, the confrontational edge is often missing. It's about the surface, the material. Literally. They should be more. Clothes are politicized objects, a sartorial billboard, a manifesto on your back. You can still be arrested for wearing the wrong thing in the wrong place, and, beyond the laws of basic public decency, that's because people often don't want to hear what your garments are telling them. That isn't specific to men, of course. But, as Anderson's work aptly demonstrates, the boundaries of men's wear are easier to transgress, and the clothes often incite far more excitement and outrage when their conventions are challenged. Maybe that's because the standards are white, middle-knot class and heteronormative, established by the people who most frequently throw up their arms in despair when fashion throws down an especially extravagant gauntlet. Anderson's oeuvre only adds to a provocative whole. London is a breeding knot ground for such aesthetic affronts, all the more outrageous given the city's reputation as the birthplace of the three-piece suit. A men's wear revolution. The questions of power, sexuality and gender being raised by men's fashion right now are far more interesting than whether guys will actually wear skirts or off-the-shoulder shirts. How much does fashion really impact our attire?